T11.6. On January 1st of 2020, Jade SA issued 2 million euros face value 7% 10-year bonds at 2,147,202. This price resulted in a 6% effective interest rate on the bonds. Jade uses the effective interest method to amortize bond premium or discount. The bonds pay annual interest on each January 1st. Instructions. Prepare the journal entry to record the following transactions. Well, from just looking at the exercise, we have a lot of information. This is the face value. This one that comes right after the face value, this is the contract rate. Here we have the time of the bond, and then here we have the issuance price, right? And then over here, effective interest rate, this is just a fancier term for market rate. So we have all of that information for us. Letter A says to prepare the journal entry for the issuance of the bonds on January 1st of 2020. Well, issuance of the bonds, we always use the issuance price, right? So what happens? Cash goes up because we're selling the bonds to other people. This C looks weird. Cash goes up and bonds payable also goes up. And we are going to use the issuance price of 2,147,202. 2. Journal entry for the accrual of interest and amortization on the premium on December 31st, 2020. Well, that's table time, right? Because every time they ask for a premium amortization or discount amortization, there is a way for you to calculate it without a table, but I personally prefer to do it with a table because it's easier for you not to get lost. Okay, so the issuance price occurred on January 1st of 2020, right? So we are going to start with January 1st of 2020, and I think I'm going to go all the way until January 1st of 2022 because we're going to need some information from that year too. All right, so the cash interest, remember that I taught you that trick. Cash starts with a C, contract starts with a C. This one is the contract rate, okay? So it is the 7%. The interest expense is the one that comes from the other rate, the market rate. In our case, it is 6%. Okay, the cash interest is the one that doesn't change. So it's going to be the face value of 2 million times that rate of 7%. That gives us 140,000 for all of the years. This is the rate that was agreed on upon signing the contract. The interest expense is the one that changes, but for this year we actually don't have it, right? Because this is the year that it was issued. So actually the only value that we're going to have is the bonds, the book value of the bonds payable, which is going to be the issuance price, because at January 1st of 2020, that is January, right? Nothing has happened, no interest has been accrued up to this point, so we're just going to put the book value. Now the interest expense is always going to be the previous book value times the rate, which is going to be the market rate. I'm going to round it to 128,832. Premium amortization or discount amortization, these numbers can never be negative, so just go ahead and subtract the smaller one from the biggest one. $11,168. And remember that I told you that this part is counterintuitive. If over here we were doing discount, here would be a plus. If we're doing premium, here has to be a minus. So we are subtracting all of the values from the previous book value. And that value, it is the value that we're going to multiply by 6% again over here. Rounding down actually, 128,162. Premium amortization, biggest number minus smallest number. $11,838, and the last book value is going to be the previous book value minus the previous premium amortization. Okay, all right. And the reason why we did that is because they actually wanted us to prepare the journal entries for the amortization of the premium on December 31st of 2020, right? Okay, so on January 1st of 2021, that is when we paid the interest for the year of 2020. And on January 1st of 2022, that's when we paid the interest for the year of 2021. So over here, when we make the entry for January 31st, right? Yeah, January 31st of 2020, we are actually looking at this number over here, right? Because this is the beginning book value of January 1st, but we're looking at December 31st of 2020. So from January 1st to December 31st, 1 year has passed. So this would be the last book value, but we actually don't want to know the book value. We want to know the premium amortization. So it would be this number over here. So the entry is going to be interest expense at the top, which is the total interest, actually in this case no, will be the smaller interest. At the bottom we are going to have interest payable. This one is the one that doesn't change, right? So it would be this one, and we would have bonds payable, right? And in this case it would be debited. Why is that? I already explained that in my previous videos, but bonds payable, it's a liability, right? A non-current liability. All liabilities, the numbers are reduced on the debit side and the numbers are increased on the debit side. Over here, we are at the debit position because we are indeed reducing the number of our bonds payable, right? So that's why we are debiting it. Okay, so interest payable is the interest that was agreed upon, the one that doesn't change. Bonds payable is that value that we just figured out of 11,168. And this interest expense, like I said before, is the smallest one. So it's going to be this minus this. Yeah. Okay, all right. Number 3, the payment of interest on January 1st of 2021. Well, payment of interest, there is no interest accrued. It's just the regular payment of the interest. So we are just going to use that interest that was agreed upon on the contract of 140,000. We're not going to accrue anything, and we're just going to pay it. So interest payable has to go down because before we had this amount that we had to pay. Now we no longer will have this amount that we have to pay because we're paying it on this day. And since we're paying it, our cash has to go down, and that is going to be 140,000 for both. 4, the accrual of interest and amortization of the premium on December 31st of 2021. Well, number 4 is very similar to number 2. It's just that the dates are different, right? So we are doing the same process, but looking at the next number. December 31st of 2020. Again, this is the book value. This is the book value of January 1st of 2021. But from January 1st of 2021 until December 31st of 2021, 1 year has passed, right? So we actually have to look at the values of this one and the premium amortization would be this one. So on December 31st of 2021, we would have the same entry as before for the same reasons, but the bonds payable amount would be different. Okay, so again, 140,000. In this case, the bonds payable amount, it is 11,838. And the difference would be 128,162. Okay. B. Show the proper non-current liabilities statement of financial position presentation for the bond liability at December 31st of 2021. Okay. This one is basically asking us to prepare a statement of financial position, right? So the statement of financial position always starts with the name of the company. In this case, it is Jade S.A. And then what kind of report that is. In this case, it is a statement of financial position. The statement of financial position is the one that has all of the assets, liabilities, and equity general numbers. But in this case, since we're just dealing with the bonds, they just ask us to do the liabilities part. Actually, more specifically, the non-current, I believe this should be capital, non-current liabilities, because bonds payable are actually non-current liabilities because they take longer to be paid. Okay, and what do they want to know again? The proper non-current liabilities statement for the bond at December 31st of 2021. Well, they want to know the book value, right? How much of bonds do we actually have on December 31st of 2021? Well, here the logic is the same. This is the book value on January 1st of 2021 at the beginning of the year. So on December 31st of 2021, 1 year has passed. We cannot put this one, right? So we actually have to put this number over here. This number is the book value on December 31st of 2021 and the book value on January 1st of 2022. So we would have 2,124,196. Okay. C. Provide the answers to the following questions in narrative form. What amount of interest expense is reported for 2021? Let's take a look over here. Amount of expense reported for 2021. If you take a look over here, where is it? This is the ending of the year of 2021, right? And they're asking for interest expense, not payable, expense. So it would be this one. Two. Would the bond interest expense reported in 2021 be the same, greater than, or less than the amount that would be reported in the straight line method of amortization were used? Okay, so they want us to use the straight line method, right? Well, for the straight line method, don't write it like me, okay? Write the full name, please. It would be, in theory, if we had machinery and stuff, would be cost minus salvage value divided by useful life, right? Well, we don't have cost, we don't have salvage value because we're not dealing with equipment or any asset, we're dealing with liabilities. So what we can do is to calculate the difference between the issuance price and the face value, right? There is a difference because the numbers are not equal, right? And this would be the total premium amount. So this is what we're going to do to see that difference first. 2,147,000. How much was that again? 147,202 minus 2 million. And useful life, in this case, we have the how long the bond is going to be, right? It is a 10-year bond, so we're going to divide that by 10. How much is that? Well, first we would have 147,202 divided by 10. That is just going to be 14,720. Okay, so actually the entry that we would have made in theory would be what? Would be interest payable. If this was the straight line method, interest expense, and the amount that in theory would come from the table, right? This amount over here would not come from the table anymore, it would come from this calculation that we just made. So we would have 140, 14,720. And again, that gives us 125,280. And that's how you solve this exercise.